Hey, good morning. My name is Jason Powell, and I'm co-owner of Petals from the Past, and we're here today, and I was looking forward to talking with you a little bit about some of the great tough plants that can add color to our gardens in July. But before I begin, I wanted to mention my wife Shelley and I are very thankful to be members of the Friends of the Birmingham Botanical Garden, and our business, Petals from the Past, is one of the participating members with the membership benefit program. So if you come to see us, we sure would love to know that you're a member, and we offer 10% off of your plant purchases for that day. In July, we have many things that face us, and part of that's the heat, part of that's the humidity, and what we're trying to do with our business here from 26 years ago when we first began is to approach gardening from an educational standpoint. So we plant everything in a garden setting, that way you can see it when you're visiting, and you can decide for yourself whether you like it or you don't. And that's part of our educational approach to gardening. The second effort we make is we host workshops and classes when we can, and we want you to come and participate. Our website is petalsfromthepast.com, and it has a whole list of upcoming events that we've got going on. We would love for you to join us for those. But that's enough background about what we're doing and why we're here in Jemison, Alabama. What I would love to talk to you about is we're here on the west side of our farmhouse, and this garden gets full blazing hot afternoon sun. And our pH of this soil is around 5.3. So when you look at this garden, I want you to keep in mind the things that are in bloom here in July that can handle the heat. They are on no irrigation system. We use rainfall only. And we clip and we prune, but we're big believers in mulch. And so we're not using any pesticides in this garden. What we're gonna look at today and talk about are perennials and old garden roses that are tough enough to handle it on their own, that do not have a common insect or disease problem. So when we start walking around the garden, one of the first things that we're going to see is one of the native phlox that grow here. So it's a phlox literally named Wanda, and it's one of the crosses that occurred naturally. Typically you see it about 8 to 10 inches in height. It blooms with a beautiful purple bloom late spring all the way through summer. And if you get a couple of 3 afternoon showers, it's going to continue blooming. As you continue around from Wanda phlox, one of the next features that I love are the Blackberry Lilies. Blackberry Lilies are a wonderful heirloom perennial bulb. One of its parents is the iris. You'll recognize the sword-like foliage, but beautiful orange blossoms with freckles in the middle. And it blooms the entire month of July into August and then some into September. As you continue on around, we're going to continue until we see a little yellow flowering perennial spilling over the edge that's a Texas native called Texas squarebud primrose. It gets about 12 inches or so in height, sprawls over the edge of the planting bed. It blooms spring, it blooms summer, and it blooms fall, and it's evergreen during the winter. It does not have a common pest problem, and it's #1 on our top 5 most drought-tolerant perennials. From there, as we continue around the garden, we're going to run into another old-fashioned favorite, and that's Blox Piniculata, the second phlox we've looked at today, and it's often referred to as the old-fashioned phlox or garden phlox. Great fragrance, blooms the whole month of July. That particular variety is one called common purple, super resistant to powdery mildew, so it's a tough guy. As we continue on around, one of the backdrop, tall back of the border perennials I wanted you to see today is a form of black-eyed Susan. It's a Rudbeckia called herbstone, and it flowers at a height of 5.5 to 6 feet, blooms the entire month of July and into August. It's evergreen during the winter, and it clumps beautifully. So it's a wonderfully tough perennial. And then as we come to the foreground, we're almost finished with our tour. We're going to see a Salvia Gregii. It's a variety called Radio Red that Carol Barton introduced us to a while back. And that little salvia blooms at hip height, spring, summer, fall, and is also evergreen during the winter. No hummingbird, no bee can resist it, and the butterflies adore it as well. And then coming forward, last but not least, there's a couple of varieties of daylily that we particularly love. One is the old species daylily, and it stands up at shoulder height, and if you get close enough, it's got some fragrance as well. So just a few suggestions for things you might have in your garden in July if you need tough plants for the southern garden.